Around the world, we're streaming live on 3news.com. Download the TuneIn app from the Google Play, Apple iOS store, and listen to us on the go. Coming up this afternoon, clock ticks with barely 24 hours to the start of polls for the governing NPP's presidential primary. This afternoon, we assess the party's preparedness for the polls. Private legal practitioner Justice Abdullah, meanwhile, says the NPP can't sue any candidate to go contrary to the party's undertaking. Also this afternoon, Garu resident who had been held up at the National Investigations Bureau following last Saturday's military raid there released upon Parliament's engagement with national security. We have details for you shortly. And a lot later, retired justices of the Supreme Court urge current judges at the Apex Court to be guided by conscience when passing judgment on matters which borders on politics and national security following growing criticism of the country's judiciary. We have details of these stories, a lot more if you stay with us for the next 30 minutes. A pleasure that you could be a part of this afternoon's bulletin. It's streaming live on Facebook. Our handles 3FM927. Same handles on Twitter as well, 3FM927. I am Eric Mawuena. Egbeta. Let's begin this afternoon's edition from the quarters of the governing New Patriotic Party, because the party says that all is set for the election slated for tomorrow. Campaign has ended with aspirants now waiting in earnest for Saturday, November 4, where the over 203,000 delegates will vote in some 274 centers across the country. According to the Elections Committee of the party, all is set for the exercise, and we'll hear from Evans Nimaku, who is Director of Elections and a member of the Elections Committee shortly. But let's hear as well from a private legal practitioner, because away from the preparations, the conversations have steered towards the party's undertaking with presidential aspirants yesterday. A high-level meeting which saw President Akufo-Addo and former President John Ajekum Kufuor present ended with an undertaking which demands aspirants accept the result of tomorrow's polls no matter their reservations. Opinions have been split, however, over the undertaking, with some questioning the legal basis for the move. Private legal practitioner Justice Abdullah, however, believes the NPP can sue any of the flag bearer aspirants who go contrary to the content of the undertaking signed.
Once you sign onto a contract, you accept the terms and conditions of that said contract. And so any breach of that contract could be used against you in the form and manner as stipulated in the contract. But usually within this particular scheme and space, I do not think that legally binding, yes it is, but I do not think that it's something that any of the members can act upon. I mean, any of the parties will be willing to act upon, considering the ramifications that it would have on the overall party's electoral chances and then the damaging image that it will bring along. And so usually this is supposed to be morally compelling for the parties who might lose their elections, even though it is a legal document, but it simply serves as a moral check on them just in case they lose and they intend taking any drastic decision that would ultimately affect the chances of the party. None of the parties signing onto this document will be really scared of the impact it would have on himself if he takes that decision out of pain to either resign from the party or any other decision that he may take going forward.
That's private legal practitioner Justice Abdullah speaking there, and he believes that although the party can take on individuals, it is more of a legal thing, a moral thing rather, as compared to something that any of the parties will want to take up head on. Let's hear as well from Professor Edu Jimfi, who is a political science lecturer with the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, on this undertaking which the candidates have signed on to.
The statements they are signing to, these are useful commitments. At least it has a way of toning down the possible brouhaha or chaotic situation that might come up in the course of the election, the possibility that this document will be set aside is very high, and we will not be, if you like, utopian to assume that it's a golden moment once they've signed onto that. The MPP itself owes themselves that duty of care, and to garnish democratic credentials, that duty of care to make sure that they don't muddy the situation.
As Professor Edu Jimfi, we're going to stay on the governing New Patriotic Party's flag bearer election on Saturday because Executive Director of Global Info Analytics, Musa Dankwa, is predicting a tight race, but tipping the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, to win the highly contested election.
The trend curve shows over the period of June till October 11th, when we interviewed delegates across the country. You would have seen that Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia's curve is on downward trend, and that is an indication that the race is tightening more than what people think it is currently. And then Kennedy's trend curve was on the upward curve, which means he's gaining ground. I think the race will be tighter. But if you look at our projections, we are saying that at the end of the day, we still expect Mahamudu Bawumia to carry the day, but with much tighter margin than what everybody else is projecting because of the trend line it shows. We have him on 58.4% plus or minus 2% margin of error as our most realistic scenario for tomorrow. There are people sincerely who are not telling people the truth about their true voting intention, and that will tend to favor Kennedy than Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia.
That's Musa Dankwa, is Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. And on the mention of the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, we here at your Election Command Center have all throughout the week been building up to the different candidates who are looking to win come Saturday. We're going to put the spotlight now on the Vice President because he's hoping to make history as the first Northern and Muslim presidential candidate of a major political party in Ghana and the Fourth Republic. On Saturday, the NPP delegates will have the opportunity to make that dream a reality. Duke Menso Poku has the rest of the details in this report.
Life's trajectory is not a straight path. Circumstances and decisions sometimes conspire to create a detour on that journey. You can make the case that in 2008, the decision of Nana Akufo-Addo to select Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia changed the then Deputy Central Bank governor's path from the technocratic leases of central banking and economics to the hurly-burly of politics. Through major defeats, major question marks and doubts, Nana Akufo-Addo kept faith with him for 2 general elections. In their third attempt, the pair became president and vice president of Ghana.
Needed his brains to help me govern the country effectively. And he's an honest person. He speaks honestly to you. He's not one of those people who you have to guess what they're trying to say. He will say what he has to say very directly. And I like that. I prefer to deal with people who are also very direct in what they say.
It's not as if Bawumia is new to politics. He watched his father, the lawyer and politician of Northern extraction, Mawuena Bawumia, serve in government and lead the Council of State under President Rawlings. He also served as then Minister for the Northern Territories under President Nkrumah, replacing E.A. Mahama, father of President John Mahama. So he grew up, stewed in politics, and like many children of the political elite, got the benefit of top-tier education in the West. From Tamale Secondary School, he studied for banking diploma before proceeding to the University of Buckingham, Lincoln College in Oxford, and Simon Fraser University in Canada, where he built his academic backbone in economics. The world of academia offered him prospects as a lecturer before a stint at the International Monetary Fund and later a return home at the Bank of Ghana. He says the Bank of Ghana opened his eyes to the immense potential of Ghana as a country, but also the risk of politics. But he did not want to get into politics.
That report by my colleague Duke Menso Poku. The extended version will be on subsequently if you stay with us here on 3FM 92.7. In the Ashanti region, meanwhile, delegates there are gearing up. It's the second largest pool of voters in this particular race in terms of a regional breakdown. William Evans Inkumis is there for us. He's been gauging the mood. Evans, many thanks for speaking to us. Talk to us about how charged the region is for tomorrow.
Well, so currently, especially Team Bawumia and that of Kennedy Japan have been very busy since last night, and they have been embarking on a mop-up exercise because they just want to be sure of the base, how much numbers they are commanding as far as the over 34,000 delegates are concerned, and how well they're also being able to crisscross into the camp of the various opponents and ensure that at least they also have some numbers adding up to theirs in order to brighten their chances of winning tomorrow's presidential primary. So basically, that is what has been happening as far as the Ashanti region is concerned. Where I am currently is the campaign office of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and here, delegates are here in their numbers. They are going to meet Dr. Ayu Efriye and the regional coordinator for Bawumia's campaign, after which he also addressed, the press. Well, I am learning that they have done their own survey, and it put their candidate, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, ahead with some 90%. But as to whether it is the reality on the ground, I'm sure 24 hours from now, we definitely will know what will happen.
Right then, Evans, we know that even as the party gears towards tomorrow, a former member of the party, Alan Chomantin, yesterday was holding an activation exercise in the stronghold of the NPP. Has that in any way affected the conversations in the lead up to tomorrow?
Partially, because, this morning, across the media landscape, across various, FM stations, political, shows that I monitored this morning, almost every single FM station was talking about Alan Chomantin's event yesterday. And of course, what even makes it more scary, for the ruling MPP pair, the narrative that they've also been sharing by way of appearing on the various FM stations has to do with the organic nature of the numbers that Alan garnered yesterday. There was no publicity, so not much was said about it in terms of publicity for people to know that there was going to be an exercise like that. And if you speak to the organizers of the event, they will tell you that it was strategically conducted in that way, just to be sure that how many people are following Alan, whether he still has some clout as far as his home region, the Ashanti region, is concerned. So I can tell you that in the Ashanti region, it has sent some level of shivers down the spine of the ruling New Patriotic Party.
Right, Stan Evans, many thanks for those details. That's William Evans Sinkum, is my colleague in the Ashanti region, providing a bit more details there for us. And so it's a big day for the NPP tomorrow, and we here at your Election Command Center will provide all the details, the up-to-the-minute speed, as and when it does come through. We'll just stay in relation to elections because the Electoral Commission has commenced the voter exhibition exercise across the country. The 5-day exercise will give voters the opportunity to cross-check and fine-tune their details on the voters' roll. The first day has been characterized by low turnout, and my colleague George Quinn has been visiting some of the centers. He's been interacting with some of the voters. Here's what they've been telling him.
In the first day, the turnout is very low because many people are not aware that the exhibition started today. So it's like they are not coming their numbers. But we're hoping that in the course of the exercise, they will attend up in their numbers to check whether their details are correct or something. So we are hoping for the best.
So how many people have you attended to?
So far on my side, I have only one female.
Yeah. 30 minutes past 10 a.m. And how many people have you attended to so far?
So far, I've attended to 6 people, and today is the first day, so it's a bit dull. And so far, it's good.
And this is going to last for, let's say, 5 days.
Yes.
You feel that the usual characteristic of Ghanaians warming up to things, it's what it is?
Yes, I think they'll come for last minute, maybe the 4th to the 5th day.
Thank you.
Well, just few people just came this morning. As of now, we are still here, but we are waiting for those who are ready to come and check.
Your other colleague says she's done 9 people. What are you?
One is going to buy something just here now. We are 3 here.
So how many people have you engaged so far?
Oh, for now I can't tell, but we have a lot of
But do you feel it's the usual way of Ghanaians do things? They'll come last minute?
Oh, they will come.
So some residents, let's take you to Parliament now, because some Garu residents who were rounded up and taken into the NIB custody have been released upon Parliament engagement with the national security. Deputy Minority Leader Alexander Penyomakin, announcing on the floor of Parliament, said even though the court remanded them into lawful custody upon the appeal from the MP for the area, the suspect will be sent back to Garu, and state officials in the quest to retrieve weapons allegedly subjected some of the civilians to beatings and torture. Komla Kuche is a parliamentary affairs correspondent. Let's find out a bit more from him. Komla, many thanks. What then happens to the demand by Parliament for the National Security Minister to appear before the House to answer questions on this development?
Nothing changes with respect to that. It's still, he will still be appearing before the House for that engagement. The only thing is that, one, because of the appeal by the MP and also the House that yes, these people have been put, and the MP has not had any engagement with them, it was important that they reached out to them. And so after these engagements, they feel the need that after the court has remanded them, there's the need for them to go back to Garo. As to how it's going to be, because, I mean, we are not even aware which court. We don't know whether there's been an adjournment, whether they've been cleared. Nobody knows much details about this, except to say that the deputy majority leader had to come to the House to make this important notice to the House in this respect. Well, I mean, MPs welcome this though, and they said, well, it's good that this step has been taken by Parliament and also the leadership, but the minister also come to the House to brief them on this.
It's interesting that it's the deputy majority leader who's making the announcement. You've mentioned that there's been a general acceptance, but it's a bit curious for some individuals that the deputy majority leader is the one making this announcement.
Yes, that's a bit of it, but he said, I mean, after the day the MP made that statement and they all condemned the brutalities, he personally have had to go to the NIB for engagement to apprise himself on this, and also to serve as an intermediary of the sort between the legislature and the NIB to find out exactly what these people have done and why they are holding them in custody. But he said, I mean, they've been held in custody, it's lawful, but the justification is that they have had to be released, and that the district chief executive, the regional minister were all contacted, and that these people, I mean, if not in Garo as we speak, might be on their way to Garo as of this morning. That's the only thing. We didn't engage the press further, where we possibly might have placed him on what's the need of this and possibly their representation if there's any legal action being taken against.
Right, Komla, I'm sure we'll seek to get some of these answers as well, but many thanks for providing those details there for us. That's Komla Kluiches, our parliamentary affairs correspondent. We can now hear from Apenyo Markin when he made the disclosures on the floor of the House.
Members expressed diverse views on the matter, which included the need for citizenry to be responsible, not to threaten the lives of our security operatives or those who have sacrificed to protect us as a nation. Again, issues of human rights, which are part of the promises of the Constitution, came to the fore. That under no provocation should a state security agency take the law into its own hands to undermine human rights of the citizenry. The Speaker, we are again told that these gentlemen were in custody, and I was to follow up on this. Mr. Speaker, true to it, I followed up, and the Ministry of National Security assured me that everything will be done to ensure that the rights of those who were arrested were upheld. True to their word, They made me part of their engagement with them. And although the court had remanded them into lawful custody, I would want to inform the House that steps have been taken to ensure that these gentlemen are released and taken back to Garu. In fact, the regional minister and other stakeholders from the region were given access to these gentlemen, and I found them to be hearty and in good spirit. In fact, they did not complain of any molestation or any form of abuses of their rights whilst in lawful custody at the national security cells.
Alexander Penyomarkin is the Deputy Majority Leader speaking there. You're listening to the news here on 3FM 92.7. Now, two retired justices of the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal have urged current judges at the Apex Court to be guided by their consciences when passing judgment on issues that border on politics and the security of the state. On the sidelines of a lecture on calls for amendment of the 1992 Constitution, the retired justices also reacted to the recent criticism of the Supreme Court by Justice William Atuguba, who described the nullification of the election of Asin North MP as scandalous.
When I was Special Public Prosecutor Tribunal, he was then in Bogatanga before he became a Supreme Court judge. I have not had the benefit of the things that he has seen or he had done ahead. I can only talk for myself. But the point is, yes, some decisions may be wrong. But my point is that if a judge or a lawyer makes a decision or gives an opinion based on the wrong appraisal of the legal principles, I have no problem with it. That's why should there be an appeal? So if there are 5 judges and 3 decide one way and 2 the other way, it means that they don't know the law. What? Find out the reasons that they give. That's the more important thing. But I'm not going to use any blanket word to condemn or to criticize. Go by it case by case. But if you give a decision and the decision is not in accordance with your oath to do justice without fear or favor, affection or ill will or ill motives, then it's a shame to you, it's a disgrace to you. I'm not saying it. And identify some guy is corrupt, taking sheep and taking money. So I'm not saying it. But did we all judge together? But God knows more than us.
Would you say the conduct of our Supreme Court justice has been satisfactory from what you say?
I wouldn't want to comment on it because he's my friend. You see, my colleague. And the same way I wouldn't want him to be saying bad things about me. I wouldn't want to say bad things about him. He knows what he said. He made them public, and take them or leave them without comments or contribution from me. Right? Whether it's good or bad, he said it. And it's not for me to correct it or to change it or to straighten it. I think you should leave the comments as you find them and comment on them in your own way without involving me.
That's the justices. That's the justices, or His Lordship Justice Jacob Moni is a retired justice of the Court of Appeal, and His Lordship Justice Stephen Alan Broby, a retired justice of the Supreme Court, speaking there. I must mention that you're listening to the news here on 3FM 92.7. Now, the dialysis OPD center at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital is yet to reopen to patients despite a directive from the health minister for the facility to be open. The critical health installment has been shut for months over a 4 million cedis debt, which has left many patients in the capital without the critical care, resulting in continuous death among kidney disease patients. And my colleague Emmanuel Samani, he's taken a trip to the hospital this afternoon. I will touch base with him and get details as to exactly what the situation is. But that's been the conversation all throughout following yesterday's directive by the health minister. Let's just take a listen again to the PRO of the health ministry speak to the directive to have the facility opened for use by kidney patients.
No Ghanaian has been caught up in.
Apologies for the mix-up in the sound there. We can now take a listen to the deputy or the PRO of the health minister, Isaac Ofer.
There have been a number of calls from civil societies, the general public, that the place should be open. This has moved the Honorable Minister, who had summoned a meeting between him and the Chief Executive. So the Honorable Minister have directed that the place should be open with immediate effect. We are hoping that the Kolebu CEO, as discussed, will move on and make sure that the place is open for patients with those effective issues to be able to attend to their needs at the center.
Isaac Ofer is the PRO of the Health Ministry speaking there. I will connect with my colleague Emmanuel Samani for a bit more on this in relation to that. But you're listening to the news here on 3FM 92.7. We're streaming live on Facebook. Our handles 3FM 927. Same handles on Twitter as well, 3FM 927. And we'll bring you some other stories now in relation to other development in different parts of the country, although the top story for this afternoon has been in relation to the governing New Patriotic Party and the primary slated for tomorrow and all of the concerns that have been coming through. We've been talking as well in relation to the kidney disease patient as well. We can hear from some of them who've been reacting to the closure of the facility still.
Today being Thursday, by now they'll call the Friday people, give them time that they are supposed to report tomorrow. And nobody has called us. Nobody has communicated anything to me from the Kolebu management that maybe talk to your people. We are starting effective tomorrow now. We've not heard anything. Like I said, I was going for my lab report today, and I passed through the place. So when I went to, they said they've not received any directive from anywhere. And what the instructions given to them, they're supposed to do the inpatient and that of the emergency. And that is exactly what I saw around 2 p.m. No OPD case was there. So I don't know. Maybe probably if they are now going to communicate to us or not, I don't know. But as I speak to you,
and so that's the position of the patient, and the minority and the entirety of Parliament as well have been coming together in one unison, making the case that the facility should be open. Kwabena Mintakando is a ranking on the Health Committee of Parliament.
People are dying. All we are doing is talking, and nobody cares. Me, for me, it fits my imagination. I don't just understand. As a minority member and a ranking member, my responsibility is to put the executive on its toes to do the needful. Tell me, what else should I do that I have not done? I just don't understand. I don't. We waste a lot of money on needless issues in this country. Just a deficit of 4 million Ghana cedis. People are dying, losing their lives. But let's wait to see when the minister will appear on the floor of the House. He's been given on the 9th to appear, and he will come and tell us if he will make any sense at all.
Kwabena Mintakando is a ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament, and just by way of a bit more news here in relation to the flood victims, and we here at Media General are continuing to support the victims of the Twin Dams spillage as through our corporate social responsibility arm, 3 Foundation are set to make yet another donation. We continue to ask that you donate in cash and in kind so we can support all of the affected victims. That's our bulletin for you this afternoon, which came to you from our studio here on the John Hammond Street. As always, a lot more news if you log on to 3news.com. I am Mawuena Egbeta. Many thanks for listening. The business team, they are on standby to bring us the very latest from the world of business.
On Saturday, 4th November 2023, the governing New Patriotic Party goes to the polls to hold its presidential primaries across the country. Over 200,000 NPP delegates will cast their ballots to elect a capable and proven presidential candidate for the 2024 election. Who will be giving the nod to lead the party? Will it be the Vice President, Dr. Mawuena, the Member of Parliament for Asen Central, Kennedy Japan, former MP for Mampong, Francis Adainimo, or former Agri Minister, Dr. Usu Efriye Akoto? Join us here on 3FM 92.7 as we bring to you live all the updates from the constituencies and keep you updated throughout the day. The MPP presidential primaries live on 3FM and all media journal platforms. Make a date with us on your election command center.
Hello, good afternoon. It's time now for Business Daily with me, Bismarck. Also coming up, government to consider proposals for removal of some taxes in 2024 budget to facilitate ease of doing business. We'll hear from a Deputy Finance Minister.
Yes, they have come up with certain proposals. Government is considering those proposals favorably, and I believe that it will have an impact on the budget for 2024.
Also, auditing firm KPMG forecasts marginal depreciation of local currency at 12 cedis as second IMF bailout tranche nears arrival for festive season.
I think we are in the 11.5, 11.8 region. I think if there would be any slide, we don't expect it to get beyond the 12 cedi by the end of the year.
Plus, government to roll out new, simpler business regulatory framework to improve tax administration, a bid to incentivize businesses.
We are trying to segment them. We're trying to break them down into simpler shapes so that those coming to do business in the country will find it comfortable.
These and many other stories lined up for you. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for your company. Now to our very first story. Government says it is considering proposals by the business community and some analysts to remove some taxes in the upcoming 2024 budget. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is set to present the financial statement on November 15 this year. Addressing the media, a Deputy Finance Minister, Abena Osei-Asari, says critical stakeholder engagements are ongoing to facilitate a more business-friendly environment in the country.
We shouldn't do a one-size-fits-all when it comes to policies to address business improvement, and that we should look categorically at what pertains, and especially like the textiles industry where they are young. It's a young industry that is now coming up. We should come up with tailor-made policies that will help them also be able to recoup the investments that they have made into it, and also employ more people, and then the growth agenda moves on. So this is not the first engagement we've had with stakeholders. Usually during our budget preparation, we conduct stakeholder engagements. We have met GUTA, we have met AGI, we have met a couple of the people we have in this room, and they have all proposed certain measures. And so government is looking into that and making sure that at the end of it all, they win, government wins, and the nation thrives. So that is, it's more of a partnership that we are looking to do and to address in the 2024 budget. It's a partnership between the private sector and the public sector. Yes, they have come up with certain proposals. Government is considering those proposals favorably, and I believe that it will have an impact on the budget for 2024.
And that was a Deputy Minister of Finance, Abena Osei-Asari. Moving on, in the lead-up to the Christmas festivities, auditing firm KPMG anticipates a slight depreciation of the local currency to approximately 12 cedis against the US dollar. This projection follows Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Attah's announcement regarding Ghana's imminent receipt of the second tranche of the IMF bailout funds amounting to $600 million slated for disbursement in the third week of this month. At a press briefing, Evans Asari, Associate Director of Deal Advisory at KPMG, highlighted the potential for these expected funds to temper the customary Yuletide cedi depreciation.
All, connoisseurs and, the economic, the experts don't see a significant slide in the city. So I think we are in the 11.5, 11.8 region. Okay. I think if there would be any slide, we don't expect it to get beyond the 12, cedi, okay, by the end of the year. We don't think that we would be, but if anything at all, it won't be that we experienced last year, getting to December, where there was quite significant depreciation. That's trajectory, I think, is over. We are seeing a bit more of a normalized depreciation of the city.
Evans Asari is an Associate Director of Deal Advisory at auditing firm KPMG. In a bid to provide ease of doing business in the country, the Ministry of Trade and Industry says it is working on a new, simpler business regulatory framework. Addressing the media, the Minister, Katie Hammond, says this will ensure the streamlining of policies to address the undue stress private organizations go through in their operations. Private sector leaders have long voiced their grievances, describing a web of regulations hindering their operations in the country. It is against this backdrop that the sector minister said the new business regulatory framework has become necessary to provide clarity and ease in doing business.
We accept that if there is so much convolution of these regulations and companies, and for that matter, the private sector might not benefit much. So we are trying to segment them. We're trying to break them down into simpler shapes so that those coming to do business in the country will find it comfortable.
Katie Hammond also revealed that government's much-touted One District, One Factory initiative has provided some 178,000 jobs. He says plans are underway to establish some more factories in 2024.
Put in 170,000 employed by 1D, 1F alone. And that may not be too much in the scheme of things, but that's how we're planning to absorb some of the unemployed.
Bismarck Ausa, 3 Business, Accra. Now to some other stories. The Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry says businesses have started to relocate to neighboring countries as a result of the harsh economic conditions in the country. In an interview with 3 Business, Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber, Mark Bedu Abuaji, lamented things could get worse for the economy if government does not create a conducive environment for private businesses to thrive.
We are looking out for a strong collaboration between the Central Bank and the Ministry of Finance towards reducing the policy rate and interest rate. Our policy rate is 30%. That is the minimum that the central bank even gives to the banks if they go to borrow. So the banks will add up. So at the moment, interest rate is hovering around 45%, and that is not good for businesses. If you look around the sub-region, some are charging 15%, 10%. Why should our interest rate be 45%? So if you put all these things together, businesses are not making profit. In fact, those who are not able to survive, now they have started moving into the other countries and producing there and bringing their goods here. Whilst they are producing there, they are creating jobs for those countries. We want to change the structure of economy. We want to manufacture. And the only way out is to create the right environment, reduce interest rate, bring inflation down, reduce the taxes. And I think that when we do that, the private sector will take advantage of this environment and produce and create the right job for us as Ghanaians.
Mark Bedu Abuaji is Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. This is still Business Daily with me, Bismarck Ausa. Before we go, ratings agency Fitch is predicting an increase in the Bank of Ghana's foreign reserves to $7.7 billion in 2025 from $4.4 billion in 2022. This will pull the import cover or months of current external payments to 3 months. The following report has more.
Fitch says the current account surpluses and projected disbursements from international financial institutions will increase Bank of Ghana's foreign reserves by an estimated $1.1 billion per year in 2023 to 2025, after a $4.4 billion fall in 2022. The rating agency also said non-payment of interest on selected external debt pending a restructuring and a marked reduction in merchandise imports will contribute to an expected current account surplus of 1.1% of gross domestic product in 2023, compared with a 2.1% deficit in 2022. It also forecasts the current account to remain in surplus in 2024 and 2025, although this forecast is subject to developments in external debt restructuring. This is expected to strengthen the value of the cedi against the dollar. Meanwhile, Fitch says another round of local currency debt exchange is unlikely in the near term. According to Fitch, the local currency debt exchanges represent a debt service reduction of 52 billion cedis in 2023, about 6% of the estimated 2023 GDP, or 39% of estimated 2023 revenue and grants.
A 3 Business News Desk report ending Business Daily with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please log on to 3news.com. Thanks for your company.